Shalom Aleichem, everyone. I hope everyone had a wonderful, wonderful week. Parshat Naso. We had a beautiful, beautiful Shavuos in Yeshiva. It was really, really strong. The learning was fantastic, and we have a program in our yeshiva that is called Hasmada B'li Batala, that when the boys are instructed and kind of buy into the idea that they can sit and learn for 5-6 hours in a row, no batala whatsoever. And the Kol Torah was absolutely phenomenal in the base medrash. And then a boy starts to see how much he can really accomplish. And Shavuos sets a paradigm, and Baruch Hashem, it's really spilled over into the week. It's been a very, very solid week, and I hope everyone's Yontif was excellent as well. We also had the schus of about 10 guys finished all of Maseches Makos over the course of the 3 days of Yontif, which was really, really incredible. Quick idea on Parshat Naso. So we read in this week's Parsha about the Nazir. And the Nazir is a very, very interesting personality, and Chazal equate a Nazir to a Kohen Gadol, which is very striking. Both a Nazir and a Kohen Gadol cannot be Metame Lames, but unlike a regular Kohen, a Nazir and a Kohen Gadol can't even be Metame to their 7 closest relatives. Not to their parents, not to their siblings, not to spouse, not to children, which is very unique. A Kohen can be Metame to his Shiva Krovim when he needs to bury them, not a Kohen Gadol and not a Nazir. The Torah describes the Nazir as crowned by his hair, which he can't take a haircut, similar to the crown that is worn, the tzitz, that is worn by the Kohen Gadol. Some kind of equation here between a Nazir and a Kohen Gadol. The Nazir is referred to as Kadosh Yihiyeh. He's very, very exalted. He's an exalted personality. And it is interesting to note that if you think about what the Nazir actually took upon himself, he took upon himself to not be Metame Lames. Okay, not the biggest deal, 30 days. Not to be Metame Lames, not such a big deal. Not to drink wine for 30 days. I qualify. I haven't drunk wine for 30 days, not that big a deal. And to not cut his hair for 30 days. Why is this so dramatic? Why does the Torah put the Nazir on such a pedestal for these Kabbalos? And I think the answer is very simple, but very significant. Rashi already points out, based on the Gemara Maseches Sota Daf Beis Amud Aleph, that there is a juxtaposition between the story of the Isha Sotah and the Nazir. The Isha Sotah is that her husband has suspicions, perhaps she has not been loyal to her husband, and she drinks from the Mei Sota in order to resolve that state of doubt. And right after the Parsha of the Sota, we have the Parsha of Nazir. And Rashi points out, Lama nismecha Parshas Nazir la Parsha Sota, lo melacha. Shekol haroeh Sota bikilkula. Anyone who sees the Sota undergoing her ordeal, and that process, perhaps she was not loyal to her husband. So if a person sees that, witnesses that, the appropriate step to take is Yazir Atzmo Min Hayayin. To go ahead and take a Nazirus, take a neder from wine. Why the juxtaposition? Why the significance? So when the Nazir goes ahead and sees what happens to the Sota, so a simple reaction of most people would be to say, tisk tisk, that shouldn't have happened. She shouldn't have done what she did. That's very, very unfortunate that this marriage is being fractured. The Nazir doesn't see it that way. The Nazir saw what happened to the Sota and said, you know what? That could be me. That could have happened to me. The Sota acted, her origins, the beginning of her process was probably pretty innocent. Perhaps some kind of innocent flirtation in the workplace. Perhaps she had a tough day at home, some disagreements with her husband, and all of a sudden, one thing leads to the next, a wandering eye, a conversation, a little flirtation, and all of a sudden, she's in this very, very compromised situation. The average person said, that would never happen to me. I would never fall in that fashion. The Nazir is a little more sensitive. He perhaps says, you know what? It could happen to anyone. Ein apotropos la'arayos. It could have happened to me. And he sees what happens, and he's Yazir Atzmo Min Hayayin. The Nazir really represents something very, very profound. It's a very profound personality. He's a person who has what I will call a sense of spiritual activism. He looks at the world around him. He sees phenomena, both perhaps bad things that happen around him, perhaps inspirational things that happen around him. And he's affected by those things. He's affected in modalities of growth. He might see things in society But he says, ugh, that's not for me. That's negative. I wouldn't want that for my children. And he takes steps to go ahead and protect. He takes a nazirus to go ahead and protect, to elevate himself from those negativities. He might have experiences that are tremendously inspirational. And he says, I want more of that. He's not someone who stands pat. He looks at the world around him and he sees opportunities for elevation. He is a spiritual activist, and perhaps that's the greatness of the Nazir. The reason is not because he's not drinking wine for 30 days, he's not being Matame Lameis, he's not taking a haircut. It's much more profound. He's looking at events, phenomena that take place around him, and he's looking to grow. He's looking to develop. He's looking to take significant steps forward. That's one thought about the Nazir. One other additional idea. The end of the parsha is full of the Nesiim and their gifts that they gave for the Chanukas HaMishkan. There's one Nasi who was in a very, very difficult spot. And Chazal point out he was in a difficult spot. The second Nasi was Nesanel ben Suar from Shevet Yisachar. So the first Nazir has it pretty easy. Nachshon ben Amminadab from Shevet Yehuda, he's going to give a gift. He's going to bring a carbon, give a gift. And everything's open to him. He can choose whatever he wants, and he gives the gift that he wants. And then comes the second Nasi, Nesanel ben Suar. And now what is he going to do? You see, if he ups the ante, Nachshon ben Amminadab did X, I'm going to do X plus 1, knowing that there's another 10 Nesiim coming behind him. So how is that going to play out? Well, then it's going to create an environment of one-upsmanship. Everyone's is going to want to do a little bit better, creating this kind of competitive environment. Imagine, for example, you're in a community, 12 Shabbos in a row of bar mitzvahs. 12 in a row. So bar mitzvah boy number 1 has it pretty easy. Whatever he does, he does. Bar mitzvah boy number 2. Oh, the Kiddush last Shabbos, there was no cholent. This Shabbos, there's going to be cholent at my Kiddush. I want to up it a notch. The next one is going to feel, ooh, I got to have meatballs. I got to have special herring, special scotch, whatever the case is. And all of a sudden, there's an environment of competition, of jealousy, of beating out what happened last time. Nesanel ben Suar was confronted with this unique challenge. I could either downgrade, well, that's not going to look good. I could upgrade, but I know I'm number 2, and that means everyone behind me is going to upgrade as well and can create fissures and disconnects in Klal Yisrael. Or I can go ahead, and this is what he does, and match Nachshon ben Amminadab's carbon exactly the same exact matana. And yes, that's exactly what he does. No upgrade, no downgrade. He follows suit, and the other Shvatim learned that lesson. And yes, we'll go through this week's Kriyas HaTorah and hear the same matanos every gift, every day after day after day, the same matana. And it gets a little boring. Why did Torah have to write it? Why do we have to have this repeat? Why not just say they all gave the same thing? But perhaps that's the lesson. That's what we're supposed to take home. The gevura of Nesanel ben Suar, which then created, in this vein, a union and a unity amongst all the Shvatim, amongst all the Nesiim, which is such an important lesson, because when we celebrate our smachot, our bar mitzvahs, our chasnas, there's this vision of, I have to make it different, I have to make it a little better, I have to keep up with what everyone else is doing or outdo them, and it becomes certainly overwhelming. So I think there's some very, very important practical lessons from this week's parsha, Parshat Naso. On the one hand, the special and unique spiritual activism of the Nazir, of learning from his environment and taking steps to improve himself based on the influences and the phenomena that he experiences. And then the greatness of Nesanel ben Suar, who understands that while he is special and unique, but he's also part of something much bigger than himself, and wants to maintain in his gifts to the Beis HaMikdash, to the Mishkan, he also wants to make sure that Klal Yisrael remains united and sets a tone for the rest of the Nesiim, which is unique and special. We shall be zocha to learn the lessons of Parshat Naso and have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbos.